Hi, this is KC from KC Grandpa Tech, where we talk about tech reviews, tech solutions, and all kinds of tech. Now, I want to talk to you about EV vehicles or electric vehicles, battery-powered vehicles like Tesla. As you know, there have been a lot of vehicle fires and cars imploding. But right now, it's even becoming more of a situation than ever before. I live in Florida right now, and of course, you know about we've been hit by Hurricane Ian and flooding everywhere. Well, what do you think that does to electronic vehicles? And we're going to get into that in detail. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be right back. So one thing about electronic vehicles or Tesla or whatever brand that you happen to have is that the battery pack is part of the car and it's sitting underneath where you sit with the passenger compartment. Now that battery, they've had multiple problems with older Teslas imploding, suddenly catching fire, and it's a massive problem. But now all these vehicles from Florida to North Carolina, where the major flooding has occurred, are now been exposed to salt water. And what's been happening? I'll tell you. Very simply, we're seeing that the salt water has been corroding the battery. Now, if you know anything about lithium batteries, they've been improving technology again and again and again and again. And what they've done is they've taken the electrodes in each battery and brought them very, very close together, which means that it can be easily shorted. But the problem with lithium batteries is when they catch fire, they burn 4 times hotter than a regular gasoline fire. And it takes thousands of gallons to put them out. So I'm going to talk to you more about that now. So all throughout Florida right now, and it's starting to happen in North Carolina, the salt water is corroding the batteries. Now, what's going to be one of the biggest problems that I perceive that some of these cars that have been exposed, the drivers have continued to use them. And slowly but surely, the corrosion is occurring on the battery packs. And it's just a matter of time. They're a ticking time bomb. We're getting news reports here in Florida of one car after the other electric vehicle imploding, where the battery suddenly catches fire, starts smoking. Now, one of the greatest dangers, of course, you could be driving the car. Well, what about if you have it in the house and you have it in your garage and it's charging and it was exposed to the salt water? They've had people lose their entire homes because the intense in temperature of the fire. And one of the great things that most fire departments have not been trained on how to put out a lithium battery fire. You know, normally you would think on a normal car fire, gasoline engine powered, you would start pouring water into the passenger compartment, and you would spray tremendous amount of water in there to put the fire out, and that would work. The problem is the lithium battery pack is underneath the driver's compartment. And if you know anything about lithium battery packs, they are specially cooled. They have fluid running through them to keep them cool. And they're inaccessible. So literally what has to happen is not only do they have to pour water on top through the passenger compartment, but they have to put thousands and thousands of gallons of water underneath. And it could take 2 to 3 hours to put the fire out, and the car is a total loss. Now that is one thing. But what really makes it really dangerous right now is that all these cars that are out there right now who've been driven in Florida, if they weren't totally destroyed before, are still out there, and the contacts on those batteries are beginning to corrode and be destroyed. And it's a ticking time bomb. Just a matter of time before that. It estimated in Florida alone, there are 58,000 EV vehicles. That's incredible. And that's a ticking time bomb all over. I mean, imagine you go plug your car in your house, again, like we said, and suddenly it catches fire. Or you're driving down the road and all of a sudden, people are complaining about that suddenly the car burst into flames. Now, one of the things they're doing, and I'll show you in a second, is what they're having to do is totally immerse the car. Now, in Europe, when they have an EV fire, they have these special these trucks that bring over a container, and they just forklift the entire car and drop it in and totally immerse the car in water, because it takes thousands and thousands of gallons of water, number one. And number two, it will burn a hole right into the asphalt, into the street. But there is another solution that's available, and that is by a company named Fire Isolator. It's an old idea on an old concept. Basically what it is it's a blanket. It's a fire blanket, fireproof. They make them for your kitchen and your home use. They come in personal size, or they come wider, where if you have a fire in your house, you put this blanket in front of you. You can run out of the house in that blanket, or you can throw it on top of your stove. Well, right here we have a picture of they're unfolding it on a fire, on an EV fire, and they just drop it on top. Let me show you more. One of the ways you put out a fire is take out the oxygen. If the fire doesn't have oxygen, the fire goes out. Same concept if you have a kitchen fire. You have one of these blankets, you drop it over your stove, over your pots, boom, right? Or if you have a fire at home and you drop something over it and you cut off the oxygen supply, it's out. Now, in other countries, they use these blankets and they keep them on the ferries, because God forbid one of these cars catch on fire, they need to put that fire out right away. So they have these blankets, they drop them right on top of the car. And I'd like to see personally these be carried by every single fire department. Not only, number one, would it make getting a car fire easier to put out, whether it be gas or EV, but it would simply prevent the fire from spreading and going and going and going. So I'd like to see these available. Again, it's made by Fire Isolator. I'm sure there's some alternate companies out there. Let's finish up this. So the bottom line is, we're now seeing a tremendous amount of problems with EV vehicles. Older ones catching on fire. The term is called imploding, where the battery itself shorts out and collapses onto itself, and then because of it, the fluid inside leaks out, catches on fire, causing a tremendously high intensity flame and dangerous toxic fumes. So if you have an EV vehicle in your home and you're charging it, not only do you have to worry about the fire, but the toxic fumes getting into your home. The other thing, of course, now with all of the flooding and major weather patterns that have been going on throughout the country, especially here in Florida with flooding, and North Carolina and all along the coastline, these cars that have been exposed to water, salt water specifically, are more likely to short out and cause a fire. So I would like to see, not only would that these blankets be carried by fire departments, but not only that, but your car reports, I'd like to see if it's been exposed to salt water, because that could mean that. In fact, maybe you should now require that if you buy a used EV vehicle that you have the battery inspected and checked. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you. This is Casey from Casey Grandpa Tech Out with more tech information, more tech news. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so I can bring more content to you. That every like helps me get this information out to people. You have a great day and stay safe.